Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. Happy Football Monday. We are going to unpack the entire football weekend right here for you on today's show. It will be great. Steve Kim Butter will join me. Shamika Michelle will tell us what's popping in the chats. You guys start hitting the chats. Start hitting that super chat. Shamika Michelle will tell me all of your thoughts about all the different things we talk about today. We're going to begin today's show by combining the two biggest happenings in the college football and NFL weekend, the football weekend. Two biggest in my point of view, because I'm going to leave out initially, when Steve Kim gets here, we'll talk about it, but I'm going to leave out initially Oregon knocking off Ohio State. That was a big happening. But the two biggest happenings this football weekend, from my point of view, from this show's point of view, is two guys got humbled that needed to get humbled. Deion Sanders and Jerry Jones. Deion Sanders and Jerry Jones needed to get humbled. They think they have figured out a cheat code, and the cheat code is Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders. That they're the two most important people in football. They're the two most important people in the success of a football team. They're the cheat codes. And you know what? There are no cheat codes in football. And so as much as I may complain about what they've done to football, oh, it's not physical enough. Oh, they might as well put a skirt on the quarterback. Oh, the wide receivers get to run over the middle and no one gets to hit them anymore. They fined a guy last week for a running back for the perfect block in the world. They've softened football, and I'm disgusted. As much as I whine and complain about that, at the end of the day, I still think football is the ultimate test of masculinity, proper leadership, and humility. You will not win consistently. You will not win in life. You will not win in football unless you humble yourself. And this game of football will humble you. That's why I can't give up on football. That's why I still love football. That's why I'm still optimistic about football, no matter all the things that they try to do to ruin this game and ruin this test of manhood, this test of leadership. Football remains undefeated. It will humble you. And Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders got humbled. I know I said this weekend after Kansas State knocked off Colorado, late touchdown, terrific game, finished up around 1 a.m., I think, on the East Coast. It's a terrific game. And I did have to admit, hey, I liked what I saw from Colorado in terms of not quitting, in terms of, hey, they lost Travis Hunter and still managed to take a late lead in the fourth quarter and look like they were going to win that game. It's one of the best games I think I've seen Colorado play in 2 years. But Deion Sanders still got humbled. And so and he needs to be further humbled. And there are signs of things going on at Colorado that I like in terms of, hey, they didn't lose their poise. They competed without Travis Hunter. They found other ways to score points, even though Travis Hunter missed the second half of the game. But Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and he has been more humble this year. But it's still good to see the game further humbling him. Because Deion Sanders entered into Power 4, Power 5, major college football thinking he was the answer. We coming, and I'm bringing Louis luggage, and everybody get out of here. And if I didn't bring you here, you're no good and you have no value. Me, 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 me. There's no I in team, but there's an I in Deion. There's an I in Coach Prime. And football is rubbing that out of Deion Sanders. Football is bringing Deion Sanders to his knees and humbling him, and he needs that. He needs that desperate. Let me walk you through, and again, there were things I saw from Colorado and Deion that I liked. But let me walk you through what I continue not to like and proof that football is humbling Deion Sanders. Let's start with Travis Hunter. Deion Sanders is the reason Travis Hunter got hurt. Because Deion Sanders thinks that he has reinvented football and he's the greatest coach that's ever hit college football. And you know what? I can take a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid with amazing talent, and I can play him both ways and play him virtually every snap for an entire season because I'm Deion Sanders, and I say so. And this kid is different. And football reared its head once again and said, "Nah, man, you're not special." And there are rules to this game of football that you're not above. In the game of football, even this softened game of football that we have today, injury is inevitable. You are not going to play football for any length of time without getting injured. And when your coach decides, hey, I'm going to play you 120, 130 snaps per game, the inevitability of injury increases substantially. And so Travis Hunter catches a pass and takes a routine hit. That was not some sort of devastating blow that Travis Hunter took. And the next thing you know, Travis Hunter, and I'm not calling Travis Hunter out when I say this, but he's got to tap out of the game. Because he's playing too many snaps. This game will not allow you to play that many snaps. Deion Sanders, in his pursuit of, I'm going to prove everybody that I'm the smartest coach and I'm the greatest coach and all you white guys don't like me and I'm a disruptor and all, in his pursuit of trying to elevate himself, he has diminished Travis Hunter. Put Travis Hunter in harm's way. Travis Hunter is a great football player that should be playing 80 snaps a game. You want to play him 60 snaps on offense and 20 on defense, or 60 on defense and 20 on offense? Fine. We've seen Charles Woodson. We've seen guys do that. But this whole deal of he can play 93% of the snaps in a college football game week after week, season after season, and not have to tap out on a routine hit with some sort of injury, this has been inevitable. And Deion Sanders, in his lack of humility, is to blame. This kid has a $200 million NFL future, and we've all sat back and watched Deion exploit this kid and put this kid in harm's way, and no one has said anything. All we've said, oh, Travis Hunter, he's the best player in college football. Don't you see these numbers he's putting up against FCS schools? Don't you see what he did against Colorado State, a mid-major? Oh my God, he's the best player in football. Hand him the Heisman. We've celebrated the insanity and the stupidity and the lack of humility from Deion Sanders because we love idol worship. And Deion's an idol. And we don't really care. If he exploits a kid and puts a kid in harm's way, we'll look the other way because Deion, he's our idol and he's black. Doesn't matter that Travis Hunter is a kid and he's black. He's just a tool to venerate Deion Sanders. Deion needs to be humble, and so do the people worshiping him. And what I'm not, and again, we spend a lot of time on this show talking sports more hardcore than we did on the previous iteration of Fearless. But if you're listening to me, you can connect everything that I'm saying to what's going on in the real world. You have adults, Diddy, Epstein, all of Hollywood, exploiting kids for their own benefit. And those people that are exploiting kids are being worshiped by you. And it doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter how obvious their immorality is. You're so caught up in their celebrity and wanting to be like them that you look the other way as they put children in harm's way. Do you understand? This is drag queen story hour just told a different way. Oh, these drag queens, they just got to be free. Some grown man that thinks he's a woman, we can't infringe on his freedom, so we'll let him dress up like a woman and shake his balls in front of a kid. You don't want to hear it, but that's what Deion's doing. He's dressing up as a football coach. He's put Travis Hunter in harm's way. He thinks he's above the rules. He thinks he's smarter than everybody else. The game of football is humbling him. And it's necessary. Same things going on with Jerry Jones. But I'm not gonna. I just want to finish up my thoughts here on Deion and all the idol worship. And have you looked at? And again, Deion and his football team have shown some improvement. But Deion and his "I'm smarter than everybody else," when he's actually dumber than everyone else. He actually doesn't take the game as seriously as the other coaches. So coaches spend all of their time looking for a 1%, a 0.5%, a 0.25% advantage over their opponents. Man, they'll send coaches to other stadiums to try to steal signs. They'll do anything to get a tiny inch of an advantage. They're so fanatical about their culture and just doing everything right. And oh my God, if we could just get a tiny, tiny advantage. And Deion Sanders allows a sideline to become a platform for rappers, athletes, other people that are clout chasers that just want to build their brands by standing on the sidelines at Colorado football games. He's invited a distraction right to the sidelines of his football games. And you wonder why they lose close games. You wonder why they weren't able to finish Kansas State after taking the lead late. Did anyone look at Deion Sanders after they took that late lead and the celebration that was going on, the smiles across people's faces? If I had all those celebrities on my sideline and my kids were halfway distracted because, oh my God, look at Cameron, look at this rapper, look at this, oh, there's Kevin Durant, there's Russell Westbrook, there's all of these people on the sidelines, many of them the rappers, and there's a few rappers that were on the sidelines this week. I can't name them. I can't keep up with them. Everybody's a rapper. Everybody's a star. But all these drug-infested, immoral rappers on your football sideline, that doesn't give Deion and the Colorado football team an advantage. It gives them extra attention. It gives them extra distraction. At some point, Deion's got to figure this out. There's a reason why Bill Belichick and all these coaches bend over backwards trying to avoid distractions. But Deion, I don't have to play by those rules. I'm smarter. I'm the cheat code. All of this attention is good. Everybody, the mistake Deion makes, the immaturity of Deion, and I'm going to try to get off Deion here and bring Jerry Jones into this, but Deion is just such a ripe example of like, hey, this isn't proper leadership. Deion's blessed with some talent and skill and all that. He can run fast, or he could run fast and all that. But in terms of proper leadership style, in terms of proper teaching and environment and culture style, Deion is completely clueless. Deion makes the mistake, and I used to make this, and this is why I was never a coach. And you know, these are things you have to grow out of, you have to mature out of. I used to think, and I used to get very frustrated when people didn't think like I thought. And I would get upset like, oh man, that's not how I would have handled that. Why didn't they handle it the way that I would have handled it? And life had to teach me over and over and over and over again, hey man, quit thinking everybody thinks like you think. That you're retarded. You're stupid. People, in order for people to think the way you think, they need to grow up the way you grew up. They needed your parents. They needed your environment. They needed your upbringing. And many people don't have that, so quit putting those expectations on them. That's the mistake Deion Sanders makes as a football coach. It's an immature mentality. Deion thinks everybody wants to be like Deion, all of his players. Deion thinks all of his players would want the things that Deion wants. Well, who doesn't want a big gold chain? Who doesn't want to be a celebrity and walk in every building with people worshiping and kissing their butt? Who doesn't want to be surrounded by rappers and other celebrities? Deion thinks like, oh man, if it were me, I would have loved for Florida State to have been just like this with every rapper on the sidelines. And what Deion is finding out, that a lot of kids might for a moment think that they want that. But as they mature, they're not all like Deion. Deion's got arrested development. Deion's still calling himself Coach Prime. Deion's still carrying himself like a 17-year-old kid. Not all of these kids will be stuck in the same mentality year after year, month after month, week after week. Some kids actually grow up, and some kids actually figure out like, hey, some of the things that I want, many of the things that I want, if not all the things that I want, are actually bad for me. And that's why a lot of the great coaches, and I've written and talked about this, they all coach from a biblical point of view. Their leadership styles, the things they're trying to inject into the players, come straight from the Bible. It's not that those coaches are perfect. They're just as flawed as anybody else. But they know they're trying to pass along biblical wisdom. They humble themselves because they know humility is the fruit of true relationship with God. They know that humility is the key to actual success. Many of these coaches, and this is what, and I'll transition, I'll leave Deion alone because I know there's plenty of y'all in the chat right now whining and crying. They only won one game. Deion took over a one-win team. And Whitlock, you still complaining. He took over a one-win team. Give Deion credit. I'm giving Deion credit. They've made some mistakes. As he's humbled himself, they've made some improvements. I'm sorry. But they haven't improved enough, and he hasn't humbled himself enough. You can still see his arrogance all over this team. You can still see his insecurity all over this team. The man is, after the game, sitting around praising Chris Kleiman, the Kansas State coach. Oh, he's great. I love Chris Kleiman. Blah, blah, blah. You know what he loves about Chris Kleiman? That Chris Kleiman lied before the game and poured gas on Shedeur. Shedeur is the greatest quarterback in college football. Shedeur is going to be a first-round pick. Shedeur is going to be a high draft pick. That's all he had to say to get Deion to, oh, God, I love Chris Kleiman, the K-State coach. Deion, you're so easy to manipulate with a tiny bit of praise. And the dude played you. Chris Kleiman will never say it, but Chris Kleiman thinks you're a clown like most people do, and that you didn't earn this, and that you don't know what you're actually doing. But he's figured you out. You're like an insecure little woman. Oh, baby, you're cute. Oh, really? Do I look fat in this dress? No, girl. I look fat. That big old, you just thick. You ain't fat. That's all you got to tell Deion. She's like a little woman. I'm trying not to go overboard because I'm telling you, I see progress. But until this feminine energy, this non-biblical energy, until Deion humbles himself, he's always going to be played. And that's what happened this weekend with K-State and Chris Kleiman. They played him. No, you ain't fat, you're thick. And Deion got very moist. I'll leave it at that. Butterworth, quit breathing hard, man.
The word moist always gets me.
You know who else needs to humble himself? I think I'm done. Last thing. Well, no, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm beating up on Deion too much. You guys are get all upset. But the guy's running his team, just trying to get his son to the NFL. Everybody can see it. It's all about Shadur's stats. They didn't run the football. It's a very close game Saturday, and they refused to run the football. Throw. And Kansas State was just running it down their throat. Kansas State just lined up and just pounded. And then in the fourth quarter, when they needed to win, they let that Avery Johnson kid drop a couple of dimes over the top, won the game. It's over. Kansas State loses. And look, you know what? Kansas State may win 6-7 games this year. Hey, might win 8. But Deion ain't a cheat code, and they're not going to have the level of success that they could have if Deion humbled himself. And so I want to thank football for humbling Deion Sanders and reminding me that it's still a game of humility. It's still a game with consequences that will humble man. And Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys got humbled. 47-9 by the Detroit Lions. And I like Jerry Jones. But Jerry Jones is a lot like Deion Sanders. This dude is 82 years old and still thinks he's the smartest man in football. You know what? I'm 82. I haven't played football since college. I haven't won at a real level since Jimmy Johnson left. But I'm still, at 82, yesterday was his birthday, I'm still the smartest man in football. I can own this team and be the general manager of this team. I can do it all. I don't need a general manager. I don't need a head coach that thinks for himself. I can bring puppets in here and they can just follow my instructions and I can construct them a roster and we'll win Super Bowls. And you know what? I'm so damn good that, man, I really like this Dak Prescott kid. I haven't liked a quarterback this much since Tony Romo. Let me pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year. I'm not moving off Dak. I like him and Dak likes me. This is the insanity of an owner who thinks he's smarter than everyone else, being surrounded by, again, he's got a little family business, like his son, like his daughter, but clearly Jerry needs an outside voice. It's so clear. Someone that will belly up to the bar and be like, Jerry, I love you to death, but damn it, I got to tell you the truth. There's no way in hell we can pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year and construct a team around him that can win at a high level. The coach, everybody in Dallas knows, hey, buddy up and get Jerry to like you, and he will overpay you. But, oh, Ezekiel Elliott, yes, you've been washed up for 3 years. You know what? We need a running back in here. I know Zeke's been washed up for 3 years, but damn it, I like Zeke. And I don't know Derrick Henry. Never met Derrick Henry. Never had dinner with Derrick Henry. I like Zeke. So let me bring Zeke back and tell Derrick Henry, nah, we're good. We're bringing Zeke back. Derrick Henry's over in Baltimore putting together an MVP season. He's on the verge, he's 6 games into perhaps the greatest season a 30-year-old plus back has ever had. 6 games in, he's averaging 5.9 yards a carry. He's got 9 total TDs. This is, Jim Brown at age 29 in his 9th season was the MVP of the NFL and retired. This is Derrick Henry's 9th year. He's 30, and he's on pace for an MVP season. Barry Sanders, I believe, at 29 in his 9th season, ran for 2,053 yards. The difference between Barry Sanders, one, he's 29 and Derrick Henry's 30, but Derrick Henry's doing it on what I believe to be the best team in the NFL. Yes, I believe that, and I know they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. But we'll get into it. This is Jerry Jones not humbling himself and saying, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing here, and I need to hire someone that does. I keep making a fool out of myself. It's Tony Romo. Now it's Dak Prescott. Oh, I love Ezekiel Elliott. We'll bring him back. Derrick Henry, he's washed up even though he had 1,300 yards last year. Jerry Jones, the game, is making a fool of him. This is what football does. It humbles men. There are no cheat codes. There are no men who are smarter than everyone else. The men who think they're smarter than everybody else, they're telling on themselves. They're telling you how dumb they are. People sit here and think that I ridicule myself and talk about how stupid I am out of some kind of false modesty or attempted humor. If you get to my age, same age as Deion, and you get to Jerry Jones's age, 82, and life hasn't taught you that you're an idiot, you're an idiot. This world, this life will teach you that you're an idiot and that you better crawl into that Bible to try to fix your idiocy. You better humble yourself, or life and this game, and it doesn't matter how Deion born with all that talent, and it will fool you. That talent and all the success you can have from that talent will fool you into thinking you're smart. No, God just blessed you with incredible talent. Jerry Jones can have all that money and look, how could you make all this money if you weren't smart, if you weren't smarter than everyone else? No. Money goes to the men willing to cut the most corners. Period. End of story. All that money is a example, it's acknowledgement of I'll cut every corner possible. We'll talk about it every day. You think Stephen A. Smith is smart? You think he works harder than everybody else? No, he cuts more corners. And when I walked you through his book and all the lies and exaggerations he told in his book, that's about cutting corners. Matt Barnes, you think they're handing Matt Barnes power in the podcasting world and the entertainment industry because he's smart? Because he works harder than everybody else? The guy's high 24/7. He's willing to cut corners. He's willing to bend over on command. No cheat codes. Love football. Love the examples and what we saw this weekend in terms of the games. Even though it's been softened, it will still humble you. And man needs humility. And we need sports and endeavors that humble us, hopefully. And people listen to this and, Whitlock doesn't like Deion Sanders. That's not true. Certainly not true. I certainly don't dislike Jerry Jones. I just want them to humble themselves. No different than I need to humble myself. We'll bring on the Korean Cosell, bring Butter into the conversation. Before we do that, I want to talk to you about our great friends at Hillsdale. I'm tired of scrolling through shows on TV and finding nothing but the same mind-numbing content. You've probably been there too. Don't waste the precious little time you have with that nonsense. Instead, use that time to learn something new and inspiring. That's why I'm so excited that Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subject. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories of the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church with Hillsdale College's online courses, all available for free. That's right, for free. I personally recommend you sign up for Introduction to Aristotle's Ethics, How to Lead a Good Life. Have you ever wondered, what is the good life and how can I live it? In this course, Hillsdale College President Larry P. Ann leads you through the most important lessons of Aristotle's ethics, including Aristotle's teachings about the human nature, the meaning of the good life, and the virtues necessary for happiness. The course is self-paced so that you can start whenever and wherever. Start your free course, Introduction to Aristotle's Ethics, How to Lead a Good Life with Dr. Larry Ann today. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/fearless to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/fearless to register. Hillsdale.edu/fearless. Steve Kim, Korean Cosell, next. They dropped a tiny bit of that biblical fruit into the WNBA, and look at the results. I'm now watching the Minnesota Lynx, and again, they got a team full of, tatted up, whatever, but that's not what they were showcasing last night. And they had the most compelling event going. It's the only real thing going. We look around at men's sports, and it's all going WWE. National Hockey League is installing women coaches. For what? Because it's the WWE. LeBron James is installing his son into the NBA storyline. There's no meritocracy in the NBA. They're eliminating the meritocracy in the NFL everywhere. We gotta let the men, these idiots, continue to tear down men's sport because it's not built on a great foundation at this point. We took what the YMCA organized and we've turned it over to the devil.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Listen that I'm back just to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Time for the Korean Cosell, Steve Kim. Steve, welcome back to the show. We'll start you off with a layup. Who got humbled worse this weekend, Deion Sanders or Jerry Jones?
Oh, not a question. Jerry. I mean, look, I'm reading your timeline on Saturday night, Sunday morning, and I'm thinking, wow, I got to give old Whitlock credit. Being fair and balanced and giving Deion some credit for coaching a tough game. They're handicapped the Buffaloes. They nearly pulled it out against a superior team, and he's coming around on him. And look, they didn't get blown out 47-9. Jason, this is not something that I want to come off as hyperbolic. But that effort, and I put that in quotes, by the Dallas Cowboys was probably the worst in terms of competitiveness, focus, discipline, and effort that I have seen in the National Football League this year by far. And I just think it's funny that after every game, Jerry Jones has to have his State of the Cowboys address where everything's big. Well, we here at the Cowboys, we're going to make some moves, and I'm the GM, and I just have a lot of faith. We're not going to make any changes right now. And I mean, there needs to be a change, Jason. I don't want to get political, but this is what we do. if the Dallas Cowboys were the Democratic Party, they'd be looking for some sort of female. Maybe Amy Trask could take his place as the GM. The question needs to be from Ed Werder or one of these guys, my boy Newey Scruggs or Clarence Hill. Jerry, have you looked into a new GM? It ain't working out here. It's a disaster. Colorado at least competed. Dallas, when they said, okay, 1, 2, 3, Cancun, that's what they played like. It was an embarrassment last night at AT&T Stadium.
Do you think that any of that is a possibility in terms of Jerry Jones waking up and realizing that he's the problem?
Oh. Jason, he is a nicer version of Logan Roy. There is no succession. The day he dies is the day there's a new GM. That's just the reality, and it's fine. It's like Jerry Buss, the greatest owner in American team sports history. But look, Stephen Jones and the rest of those kids, they're very, very competent people. Okay, this is not like Genie Bus and that clown show going on over there at the Laker organization. But I'm going to repeat something that I've said before. Jerry has unbelievable business acumen. His success as a football owner in terms of the monetary impact he's made, not on the Cowboys, but the league, is unmatched. But he wants to be known as a football guy, a guy that really knows the game. That's the biggest problem him and Jimmy Johnson had, and why Jimmy started to really rebel against this whole thing. And he is going to die trying, and he's 82, and he's kind of close to it. By the way, here's another thing. Can Fox or whoever is televising these games, we don't need the shot at Weekend at Jerry's every other bad play. That became farcical after a while. When it was about 38-0, guys, we don't need any more shots at Jerry. We're good. We get it.
Steve, I want to play you the clip of this is SOT number 2, Jerry Jones talking about potential coaching changes. And on this, I kind of agree. They don't need a coaching change. They need a GM change. But anyway, let's hear from Jerry.
What would it take you to evaluate making a head coaching change in season?
Oh, I haven't even considered that. I'm not considering that. Just so you're clear, I'm not considering that.
But you've done it once before.
I wouldn't be a hypothetical in that matter. Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you? Okay, well, I'm not going hypothetical with you about when I'd consider coaching change in light of the timing we're sitting here with. I'm not at all.
I do think Jerry's an idiot because Jerry doesn't think he's an idiot. And seriously, and I love Jerry Jones, but at some point, man has to realize just how stupid he is, and he needs help. He can't do. You can't conquer anything all by yourself, and particularly at 82. You've got to empower people beyond yourself to get things done. So, yeah, I actually do think Jerry's an idiot, and I actually like Jerry.
Look, there's a lot of admirable things about Jerry Jones, but his biggest weakness is not knowing his role. I read a lot of books about this. I've actually talked to some people that were involved from a peripheral level. When Jimmy Johnson was hired in March of 1989, or I think it was late February, they had an understanding and an agreement. I do the football, you do the business. Somewhere along the way, here's what happened, though. This is about ego and credit and being in the media. Jerry once said to Jimmy, well, now, Jimmy, how come you just can't give me a little bit of credit? And Jimmy said, well, wait a minute. You're the one who makes the tens of millions of dollars. I'm the working stiff here. And basically what was said to him was, well, here's the thing. I can make an oil deal that gives me $25 million, but you're the one on the front page for cutting our punter. I mean, it was all about ego. It was all about exposure. And somewhere along the way, that great man, the 4-star general of the gridiron, James William Johnson, I have had enough. And there's a great story. In the offseason of 1992, the Cowboys were coming off an 11-5 season, and they looked like a really good young team. But what were they missing? They didn't have a pass rush. So Charles Haley's out there defecating on 49er teammates' cars. True story, by the way. And they said, okay, we got to get this nut job out of here. Jimmy Johnson called around and said, okay, can we control and handle this guy? Let's make the trade. That was Jimmy's trade. But as soon as the trade goes down, Jerry's acting like he did all the work. It got so bad that Jimmy's wife, significant other back then, Rhonda Rookmakers, actually quoted as saying in a couple books, hey, how much film did this guy watch on Charles Haley? And so when Charles Haley goes to the airport, he lands in Dallas, who's out there waiting for him? Jerry Jones, acting like he's his best. And these are the things that grate on people. Jason, if you were an NFL head coach of any team, would you want your owner to do a post-game press conference after every single week? That gets old. Really.
It gets very old. Steve, I want to talk a little bit more about Deion Sanders, though, before we move to some other NFL topics. And I didn't even get into this in my opening rant, but I am now that you're here. Because people are saying, man, I thought you gave Deion credit. And it was a competitive game, but I left out my number one complaint with Deion this weekend. Shiloh Sanders. They rush him back into the lineup. He plays like dog doo-doo. Deion acknowledges he plays like dog doo-doo. Why was the kid never benched during the game? How could that display go on and on and on the entire game? Deion be aware of it. The kid's coming off injury, and Deion's after the game, well, he was rusty, he was this, he was that. How come you didn't bench him this entire Colorado thing? The way Colorado's defense had been playing without Shiloh, you could make an argument like, holy cow, this team improved once Shiloh got hurt. The chemistry on this team, the defense on this team improved once Shiloh got hurt, and they just jump him back into the lineup like they're throwing Ed Reed or Ronnie Lott back out there. The kid wets his pants, makes a fool of himself. His father's aware of it. They never pull him from the game. This isn't about the University of Colorado. This is about Deion and his sons. Before you comment, let's play the clip, shot one, of Deion talking about how bad Shiloh played.
On DNVR. Just wanted to ask you about Shiloh, just what you thought about his play tonight.
I thought he played horrible. I thought he was rusty. I thought he didn't have his footing. I thought he wasn't breaking down. He was coming up trying to make the play, but open field one-on-one tackle with that kind of back is that ain't an easy task. But he's going to do better. I know what he has in him.
Deion's a defensive back. He could see it in real time. His son's out there playing poorly. Didn't pull him out of the game. They've been playing great defense in the games that Shiloh was out. This made no sense to me. Again, Deion's got to humble himself. This is about Deion first, Shedeur second, Shiloh third, and everybody else. Travis Hunter, I'd maybe put third and then Shiloh. But everybody else, it doesn't matter. If I was the kid that got set down for Shiloh and then watched that mess Shiloh put on, I'd be in the transfer portal today. Anyway, your thoughts.
You said Ronnie Lott? More like Ronnie Not. I mean, look, people always talk about the issue of nepotism. That's why there's laws against this, right? A lot of state levels. There's no doubt about it. Shedeur Sanders is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. So there's no problem there. I think you bring up a good point. Is he the best strong safety on the Colorado Buffaloes? I mean, that one play where DJ Giddens shook him out of his shoes. Here's the difference between when Deion missed a tackle and when Shiloh did. Deion will tell you, I was making business decisions. He didn't want to tackle. Shiloh's actually trying to. And that is an issue. And I'm watching this game, and I thought it was really interesting that if Colorado would have somehow won that game, despite being outplayed for much of it, and you look at the numbers, time of possession, first down, total yards, Chris Kleiman, I think, would have been absolutely lampooned the way he handled the last drive or two. When they had the lead before the pick six, that guy when he got tripped up, right, by Hodge. How you don't give the ball to DJ Giddens on 2nd and 6. You're inside Colorado territory with 4 minutes to go, and I'm thinking, okay, it's Giddens time. You dance with what brung you, and they went with 3 straight passes. And I'm thinking to myself, Colorado may be among the luckiest teams I've ever seen. I know people are going to get upset by that. You look at the way Baylor botched that Hail Mary at the end. I'm just telling you, this is not second guessing. When it was 2nd and 6 on that drive before they retook the lead, I kept saying, okay, hitch your wagon to 31. That kid is running over people. He's running hard. Get Dylan Edwards out of there. He's a little scat back. But again, look, I give Colorado credit for this, though, Jason. They are consistently in some dramatic, exciting, entertaining games. They are the most fascinating reality show in college football by far.
They are, and it's keeping up with the Kardashian Sanders, I guess is what we would call this, or something along those lines. Because again, it's a reality show. It's a reality show about Deion and his sons. His daughter, she got married or had a kid and maybe moved away from Colorado, but this is a reality show about Deion and his sons, and it's mostly about Deion, and that's why I'm sitting here in an upbeat mood that, like, hey, they've turned football into a reality show, and it's not going to work. And I know they're 4-2, and I know they got Arizona coming up, and that'll be another toss-up game. We shall see. But I don't, Deion was thinking they were going to be in the college football playoffs. And I don't think they got no, if they had to face a BYU, isn't that who they would face in the Big 12 title game most likely? And they've been trouncing everybody. They would get destroyed in a game like that. And look, really, I'm just I've returned to my factory settings. If you have an edge rusher who can pressure the quarterback, you can beat Colorado, because Shedeur holds the ball too long, and Shedeur will always, instead of stepping up into the pocket, he's always going to step out of the pocket. And a lot of these sacks are on Shedeur. No one talks about it. There's people evaluating this film at the NFL level that know, Shedeur is a nice little college story. There's some things that we're definitely going to have to work out, because if every time you get a little edge pressure with all these edge rushers we have in the National Football League, if it's always your instinct to go left or right rather than straight forward, we're going to have real problems.
Jason, in college football, sacks are counted in the rushing yards, so that has to be taken into account. Colorado had 27 negative yards rushing. Much of that because their quarterback kept letting the grenade blow up in his hand. And look, I don't know if he does it intentionally or on purpose, but it's a selfish brand of football. There are times when a play is just not going to work. You got to chuck that ball and get to the next down. Jason, I don't know if you noticed this, but during the game when they kept flashing to Deion on camera, I thought he looked very agitated and very irritated. I thought it's the most serious I've ever seen him as a head coach at Colorado, because I think he realized, number one, this is not going to be easy. Number two, we're making way too many mistakes. I actually liked his demeanor, because he was actually like really a serious football coach. It wasn't a reality show. Like, he kind of knew, like, we're in it today against a team that's more disciplined. They have more athletes, and we better find a way to win. I actually didn't sense a lot of jubilation as they retook the lead. I thought it was relief that, oh my God, we might sneak a game in here that we really shouldn't win. That's the way I looked at his body language and facial expression.
That's not how I interpret it, but I think that's a reasonable interpretation that, I'm open to. And I agree with you. I thought for the most of the game, and that's why I tweeted out afterwards, like, hey man, this isn't a bad look. Travis Hunter got hurt, didn't play the entire second half, and they were in this game. And I do give Deion that credit. But when I think about it in totality, when I think about why did Shiloh play the second half? It was obvious very early on. Like, Shiloh's having a bad game. He's coming off injury. Why is he out here every snap? That's Deion taking care of his kid, didn't want to hear the complaints at home. And then, I do think he was a bit frustrated with Shador and the sacks that they were taking because anybody with a brain could see like, hey, this ain't really the offensive line. He's not helping them out. He's holding on to the football too long. And as the former offensive lineman, former offensive tackle, when the quarterback bails left or right and you're the offensive, you don't know what's going on behind you, but when the quarterback bails left, he's just made things much more difficult for you. And that's what Shador does. People don't want to talk about it. Everybody knows that if you want to stay on Deion's good side, just praise Shador. And then you can say anything else because Deion knows that, like, look, as a head coach, maybe I could get a job and maybe make 10, 12 million bucks a year. But this kid, this quarterback I have, he can make 50, 60 million dollars a year. And so all he wants to hear is people praise his son, and he's all good. I gotta, as much as I love talking Deion and the Cowboys, I gotta move on. We gotta move on. Steve, there was a bad injury yesterday with Aiden Hutchinson. And the Detroit Lions obviously looked awesome in knocking off the Dallas Cowboys 47-9. And the NFC North looks awesome. Everybody's got at least 4 wins in that division. And it looks like the best division in football. But without Aiden Hutchinson, you gotta remove the Lions from the list of Super Bowl contenders, in my view. Agree or disagree?
Sadly, I don't disagree. I happened to be watching that game. That was the LA game out here on Fox. When that sack happened and the way he just kind of laid on the ground, I thought for a second he might have been paralyzed. Here's the thing with Hutchinson. He has the ability to make everyone better. That's what a great player does. He elevates every other guy on that defensive line. And in the offseason, the Lions made a pretty good move to get Marcus Davenport, another twitchy edge rusher, and then he got injured. Now, Aleem McNeil yesterday had a really good game rushing up the middle. They ran some pressures. I don't know how sustainable it is. Look, the Lions with that offense and the way they have drafted under the direction of Brad Holmes, who's excellent, they're still going to win double-digit games with that offense. But I've never been a fan of what they do in the secondary, although they played fairly well yesterday. But those edge rushers are so rare. They're like the Hope Diamond. And I'm just wondering at this point, if you know that you have a team that can make a run, do you start inquiring about Max Crosby with the Raiders or see if Hassan Reddick is interested in showing up for the job if you're the Lions, Jason?
Reddick seems more reasonable to me. I guess Max Crosby could be, because a short-term play or one-season deal, but I just don't, can you pay Max Crosby and Aiden Hutchinson? And is he still on his rookie deal?
Yes, he is. Rookie deal.
Yeah. And now coming off an injury. But, yeah, I would be shopping for a pass rusher because it is a Super Bowl team. And without that edge rusher, because to me, Hutchinson's the guy that creates second and long, third and long for that defense. And that's the only way to really get off the field. And without him, without those situations, I just think the Lions are getting a lot of scoring matches, contests, and they'll lose that because Jared Goff will throw into coverage from time to time. He's not, in my view, an elite quarterback. I just don't think they can do it without Aiden Hutchinson. And so it's funny, not funny, but I covered his dad's college career at Michigan. And so I followed this kid kind of passionately, throughout the years and thought, I didn't understand. Who was the kid Jacksonville took?
Trayvon Walker,
out of Georgia.
Trayvon Walker.
Yeah. Was he out of Georgia? Of Georgia, maybe? Never first team all SEC. And I was like, hey, man, they fell in love with this kid out of Georgia at the Combine when this Aiden Hutchinson's just been destroying people and the best defensive. It was a crazy decision. I thought Aiden Hutchinson was the clear. It's like Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf. And Aiden Hutchinson was the clear Peyton Manning, and Jacksonville took the kid that had all the talent but never put it all together on the actual college football field. So anyway, sad. I was watching the game, saw Hutchinson laying on the ground the way he did, and I immediately changed the channel. I didn't want the details. I didn't want to be inundated with replays of what it was. And then I flipped back and saw that, they had to cart him off. Anyway, Steve, my other provocative take from the weekend, I think this is provocative, but maybe it's not. The Baltimore Ravens, to me, are the best team in football. And I know they're 3-2. I know they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. Or they're 4-2, I'm sorry. I know they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. But to me, Lamar Jackson's playing at an elite level, and Derrick Henry is playing at an MVP level. Not that Jackson isn't. But that running game, and I think Washington is a good team, and I thought that was a significant victory, knocking off Washington and cooling down Jaden Daniels and that Washington offense, the Commanders' offense. The Baltimore Ravens, best team in football. Your thoughts?
If you were to say, Steve, right now, who was your pick in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl? It would be Baltimore. And Jason, I love the way they are no longer going square peg, round hole to Derrick Henry. It's not like they have ditched the shotgun and the pistol, but there are certain times now they're going right underneath center, old school football. I think I even saw an I formation. I even saw some 12 personnel with tight ends bunched in line, and they're just running a toss pitch, downhill ISO. Look, Derrick Henry early in the game is a body puncher. He'll get 3 to 4 yards. By the end of the fourth quarter, Jason, guys don't want to tackle that big oak tree coming downhill, and you see the way he finishes games. And I have to give Lamar Jackson credit. Under center in that play action game, Jason, he's getting to the top of his drop, back foot hits. That ball's getting out of there on time and very accurately. Right now, the two MVP candidates, in my view, and it's interchangeable, it's either Lamar or Derrick Henry. And they are really the toughest style to play because they could play the speed game outside with the shotgun and Zay Flowers and Likely, or they can absolutely pound you downstairs up the middle with Derrick Henry. I'm with you all the way. Baltimore, again, barring injuries, this does look like their year again.
Hey, Hadley, while I'm going to ask this question, see if you can dig this up, or maybe Steve can think of it off the top of his head. Butter, maybe you can think of it, but has there ever been a time when the best quarterback and the best running back were on the same team? Have we ever?
How about
No, Aikman was never the best quarterback.
Well,
Aikman was great, but he was never the best quarterback. And I love Aikman, but he was never the best quarterback. This would be like Brett Favre and Emmitt Smith, or Dan Marino and Emmitt Smith. This is Lamar's a two-time MVP. He's having an MVP-like season. I do believe Aikman and Emmitt would be considered the best combination maybe we've ever seen, quarterback and running back. And maybe, I don't know, who?
Bradshaw, Franco Harris. I don't know if either guy was considered
Bradshaw,
truly the best.
Franco Harris. Yeah.
Jason.
Was Roger Staubach, did he play with Tony Dorsett?
Yeah, but Dorsett in his rookie year early on was never considered the best because there was a guy by the name of Sweetness, Walter Payton, and Earl Campbell.
Yeah, Walter Payton. Yeah.
Jason, to your question that you asked on Twitter
Eric
about
Dickerson, Vince Ferragamo?
Dieter Brock was his guy. Now, Jason, to your questions about
Hold it. I got one. That's Peyton Manning, Edgerrin James. Weren't they together? Or Peyton?
Yeah.
Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk.
Yeah, that could be one. Or although again,
Elway Terrell Davis.
A lot, yes, that's a good one. A lot of people tell you LaDainian Tomlinson in that era may have been better than Edgerrin, but they were both elite. They were both very elite. Jason, to your question you asked on Twitter early this morning about which running back at this age, 29, 30, have had years like this. There's one running back that comes to mind who actually I believe had more yards in his 30s and his 20s, John Riggins. John Riggins was criminally underused by the Jets during the end of the Joe Namath era. He actually retired, took a redshirt year, I think in 79 or 80. Joe Gibbs coaxed him back as a Redskin. And then behind those Hogs, 2 tight end formation, they just ramrodded people. And he put forth really a Hall of Fame career after the age of 30. But what makes what Derrick Henry doing even more impressive, Henry hasn't been underused. He's been a franchise back for about 7-8 years. And for him to have this type of juice left, I think makes it even more impressive than what Riggo did with the Redskins.
The other thing, the reason why I won't go with Riggins, and I need to make sure my stats here are right, but the thing that puts Derrick Henry over the top at this point is the 5.9 yards a carry. 6 yards, that's Barry Sanders territory. That's Jim Brown territory. John Riggins was having these incredible seasons late, and I'm looking at, 3.6 yards, 3.8 yards. They were just running him in 375 carries 1 year, 327. Great, I'm not disrespecting that. And look, defenses were more stacked to prevent the run back then. Now you're getting a 5th defensive back out there that Derrick Henry's running against. But 6 yards a carry is just insane. And to be doing that at 30, 9th season in, is really insane.
I mean, Jason, for a guy his size and his stature to run away from NFL defensive backs and the amount of 60, 70, 80-yard runs that he has had throughout his career, and to be able to do it now is amazing. We may never see another guy like this.
No, we won't. I want to move on to this. I want to pick a fight with you. I think Hadley or someone said this morning that Baker Mayfield is having an MVP-type season. And I was like, hey, man, cut it out. The guy threw 3 interceptions in the first half yesterday. Let's don't get ahead of ourselves. But I did think, I was like, well, hold on. Steve Kim is a Baker Mayfield-type guy or a supporter. I don't like short quarterbacks. And so, that's my bias. I could never fully hop on the Russell Wilson bandwagon because of that. I like my quarterback 6'2.5" or taller. No taller than 6'5", though. But anyway, where are you at on Baker Mayfield? 4 TDs, 3 interceptions. Yes, he somehow came out of that game with a 97.6 QB rating, even despite the 3 interceptions. How impressed are you with the 4-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield?
Well, I'm not a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to Baker Mayfield, and I wouldn't say that I'm a big fan of his, but I think I'm very honest. Baker Mayfield has become a solid NFL quarterback. If he's not elite, he's probably in that next tier. Keep this in mind. Not only has he won a playoff game with the Buccaneers post Tom Brady, he actually went to a playoff game and won one for the Cleveland Browns. Now, do you think people in Cleveland would rather have Deshaun Watson right now as their quarterback or that guy? And yeah, Deshaun Watson would win every jump ball with Baker Mayfield. I get it. In fact, there's a lot of quarterbacks that could probably dunk a basketball. I'm thinking that Baker Mayfield probably does a lot of fancy reverse layups. But you know what? Baker Mayfield consistently has won games, at least in this iteration of his career. He puts up solid numbers. And with Chris Godwin now back to his old self, along with Mike Evans and then Bucky Irving, giving them fresh legs at running back, that Buccaneer offense is a real issue. Don't be surprised again if the Buccaneers are playing in January. Give that man some credit.
I'm happy for him. Todd Bowles is a coach that I like. He won't play the little racial game with the media, so I really like that about Todd Bowles. I'm rooting for them. And they certainly, Mike Evans and the receiving help, I'm rooting for them, but I'm not, short quarterbacks and interceptions, they're like peanut butter and jelly. I'm just telling you, ideal quarterback is 6'3" to 6'4". He's not, Baker's 5'11". Not completely sold. Let's move on
about quarterbacks or power forwards here, Jason. Jeez, you cannot go out there and take away this man's consistent production. He has evolved.
You're acting like he's Drew Brees.
Hall of Famer. Drew Brees a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's not Drew Brees, is what I'm saying. Drew Brees is the exception.
Okay.
Butter, as the shortest man on the set, do you have an opinion here? You got anything you want to?
Yeah, I'm a short king, by the way. You got me over here feeling like I'm at the kids' table like this. I mean, the only thing that you guys are missing today is that you're just disrespecting the Kansas City Chiefs to this degree. A 5-0 team, and all the love for the Ravens is just a little too much for me.
Look, I'm a Chiefs fan, but I just don't think they're the best team right now. And I'm a Chiefs fan, but Baltimore has a complete, true identity. Kansas City's got receiving problems. I love Baltimore's identity, and they got the closer in Derrick Henry. They have 2 MVP candidates. We've never seen a pairing like that. I'm not trying to disrespect the Kansas City Chiefs. Certainly not trying to disrespect Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes, but I do think this is Baltimore's year. But also just remember, I started out the year saying this was Dallas's year, and that's who was going to be in the Super Bowl.
Oh, jeez.
I just don't think it's fair to Patrick Mahomes and what those guys have done. I think y'all are missing it, but that's just me, short king.
Jets and Bills tonight, Steve. Jets and Bills, obviously an important game for Aaron Rodgers, but an equally important game for Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. What do you like tonight?
It's a fascinating game because now, post Salah, we got to see here what's going on and what the offense looks like. And, Buffalo after a hot start, I kept trying to tell people there's nobody to throw to outside. You're asking Josh Allen to basically throw and catch the football by himself. I still look at Buffalo as a very talented team in certain areas, but I'm not saying that they needed Stephon Diggs, but they needed a player of his caliber to anchor that receiving unit. Now, I think they're the better team, and I believe this game is at MetLife, but I don't know. The Jets are such a mess, and all of the pressure now is on Aaron Rodgers. They've given him everything, and I'm not saying this is going to ruin his legacy. I don't even really believe in all that stuff. But there comes a point in time that when you placate one player to the degree the Jets have, there's now an expectation to actually perform and win games.
Buffalo -1. The only thing I felt super confident about over the weekend was Detroit was going to put it on Dallas. Felt confident about that. I kind of almost had the same feeling about Buffalo tonight. -1. This game is basically a pick'em from what I've seen from the Jets, from what the inaccuracy I've seen from Aaron Rodgers, the proper demotion of Nathaniel Hackett, but the promotion of some head coach that, was a defensive. I just think the Jets are in total chaos. This game could look just like the Cowboys just got their curb stomped by the Detroit Lions. This could be another blowout game. Primetime game on national TV. I would be shocked if the Bills win by less than 13, 14 points. There's my prize picks for you. Heavy on Buffalo tonight.
I got to go with Buffalo, too. And here's the thing. Buffalo is built to play from ahead. Like certain teams that when they are able to make teams one-dimensional with that throw game and with that Jets offensive line, oh, boy. I don't know what else to really say other than the Jets. They don't look good at all. And I thought they were making progress after the Patriots game, but it turns out the Patriots are the league slump buster. Old reference there. Look it up. Okay? So basically, throughout any game with the Patriots, they are, again, the slump buster. For those, look it up. So we'll see. But it almost feels like a must-win for the Jets because if they don't win this one, I don't see it getting any better.
Well, they'll fall to 2-4. Buffalo will be 4-2, and I just think these things will build on themselves. Let's say I'm Devontae Adams and I'm still looking for a trade destination of where I want to play. Jets go to 2-4, and it's like, love Aaron Rodgers, but I ain't doing that. Baltimore probably becomes even more attractive. Kansas City Chiefs maybe become attractive. I don't know, but the Jets would mark themselves as an unserious team, particularly for this year. They are an unserious team, and this would be problematic for Aaron Rodgers. This will be 2 straight years where he was obviously irrelevant last year because of injury, irrelevant this year because they're just a bad squad. They look no different than, not that he's playing as poorly as Zach Wilson, but they look no different with him as they did with Zach Wilson. Again, I'm heavy on Buffalo tonight. Steve, I want to show you a clip of Nick Sirianni. Or did I say that right? Sirianni?
Sirianni.
Philadelphia Eagles coach, Sirianni. He's yapping at Philadelphia Eagles fans. They're playing Cleveland and not playing very well, and he's yelling and screaming with fans. I've never seen this from an NFL head coach. This is not the look you want. Let's play the clip of Mike Greenberg going after Nick Sirianni. This guy had taking on Philadelphia Eagles fans. I don't know if that's a debate, an argument you can win, but here's Mike Greenberg. Let's play that.
Oh, good God, shut up. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't just not say this now, okay? You do not in life get to choose the parts of things you like and you don't like. If you're not ready to be booed, then I'm telling you right now, don't be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a job that people would give what would people give? Your dad was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles for a long time. It was one of the proudest things of his entire life to his dying day, and so would everybody would be. You know what? If your team doesn't play well, you're going to get booed sometimes, and if that's what you're worried about, then you're thinking about all the wrong things. Picking a fight with your own fans is the absolute worst thing a coach can do. You want to talk about not very productive? He's saying, well, I don't think it's very productive if the fans are booing us. How productive is it for you to be worrying about that when your team is barely beating what looks like the worst team in the entire NFL? So what I would say is when the coach gets up there and says afterwards, well, I don't like it when they boo us, but I love it when they cheer us, you're basically telling me I only want the fun parts of this job and I don't want the tough parts. Well, that's not a real tough sounding reaction to me. So it seems to me they need a completely different attitude when it comes to that. Now, I'm not sitting here saying fire the coach. I'm saying the coach needs to look at himself in the mirror and say, what the actual heck was I thinking yesterday?
I do think this is nearly a fireable offense. I couldn't have this from my head coach. That's a terrible tone. He looks immature. That's not a leader. Your thoughts?
Nick the Unserious. You know, if there's one fan base I would not want to battle, is any fan base located in Philadelphia. I mean, that was a great old story about the old vet. Remember Veterans Stadium? They literally had a jail and a courthouse underneath the bowels of the stadium. And every week, those places were busy. And I was watching portions of this game. Jason, they look terrible. I don't blame the Philly fans for booing. They have not looked good since last year when they were 10-1 coming off that Super Bowl loss where they looked really good. They have fallen apart. And our old friend, Serious Seth Joyner, I actually listened to his podcast because it is the most blunt, serious thing I've ever heard. Seth is the only guy that could smile at you and still scare the hell out of you. And I actually got to meet him. He was a nice guy. If you listen to Seth on a weekly basis, he will tell you, as honestly as any player analyst I've ever heard, there are structural issues with this team, and a lot of it is related to coaching. Sirianni, to me, and there's reports that he does not get along with Jalen Hurts. That's never a good thing, not getting along with your quarterback. And now you're picking fights with the fans who have a right to boo. They played terribly yesterday. If they played 20 other teams, they would have lost by 10-14. Sirianni is looking like an unserious person that was elevated to a position that, quite frankly, over the long term, Jason, he was not ready for.
Totally agree. Only pivot I would make off of the Mike Greenberg comments, and I hate to go what about Favre on this, but to hear the broadcasters hold Sirianni to an appropriate standard of behavior towards fans.
Okay.
They never do it as it relates to the athletes, because I think it's not to the same degree. You're not the head coach, but I've seen NBA players picking fights with fans and doing all kinds, and it's always defended. And so that's what troubles me, because as high of a standard as we hold Sirianni to as the head coach, Russell Westbrook makes far more money than Nick Sirianni, and he gets to bicker and fight and with fans, and it all gets defended. And so I wonder if this wouldn't be singing a different tune if Nick Sirianni was named Nick Washington or Nick Boom Boom Washington. If that was the coach, would there be a whole different tone here to the criticism?
Wait a minute. Don't you mean Nick Quan or Nicarius? Anyway, you're right. You're right. There is
Nick Sirianni.
I mean, but anyway, back to our point. You're right. There is a racial element in a lot of white broadcasters and journalists. They're afraid. But I'm going to say this again, Confucius. The standards they hold you to is what they think about you. That's the bottom line, Jason. White coaches are expected to act better than a lot of athletes.
That is true. Finally, Steve, and we got plenty of time here, but I did want to give you some time. I watched Oregon, Ohio State, and it went kind of the way that I thought it would go. I think Dan Lanning is a better coach than Ohio State. I'm not surprised they won that game. I don't know if you saw Warren Sharp had an interesting deal. At the end of that game, Oregon had 12 men on the field, and it was a penalty that actually worked in Oregon's favor in terms of draining the clock. And Warren Sharp was pointing out how smart it was, and it's just Dan Lanning is a great coach. He's 38 years old. I'm not shocked that Oregon beat Ohio State. Would love to see a rematch of this game in the Big Ten championship game, and who knows how it would go. Well, we might. But anyway, go ahead.
Jason, isn't the 12-team modern NIL playoff realignment college football great? We get to watch this again in a couple months. But Jason, about Lanning. Lanning is elite. I love Lanning. But before we crown him Junior Belichick, he lost the game last year because he wouldn't kick field goals. And he left a lot of points on the board against Washington. Now, in this game, and Lanning did an excellent job, but I'm watching the game with Coach JB, and Darnell. We were actually watching this game together. We had a meet and greet, me and Mario, at the Hustler Casino, and we ended up staying after we watched the game. Jason, Lanning kept chasing
What casino
points.
were you at?
Hustler Casino in Gardena.
In
Fine
Vegas?
sponsor of the 3 knockdown rule. Yeah, there's good people there.
Go ahead.
Had a great time. Anyway,
all right, go ahead.
If Lanning would have just, I don't know, kicked field goals and taken the points and not gone for it every time, that game would have been different, though. So before we crown him as, again, this infallible coach, and he's one of the elite ones, he's going to win a lot of trophies. Let's be honest about it. I'm sick and tired of these modern-day coaches playing to analytics all the time in a big game where the talent differential is incremental, or even, guys, just take the 3 points. You don't have to go for 2 every time. Don't overthink it. Every point counts, as it did in that game.
Any disappointment with the way Ohio State played? Anything to read into this game? Other coin flip game, and maybe a coin flip and a rematch?
I still say Ohio State's one of the 2 or 3 best rosters in football, but it goes to show you opposition matters. Because if you look at Ohio State, their early schedule was dotted with MAC teams that they overmatched, rebuilding Big Ten teams, and one-dimensional teams like Iowa with no offense. Oregon was by far the livest offense that they have faced up until this point. And you saw what happened. They look very, very mortal. And Dylan Gabriel, the southpaw, he is now right in the thick of the Heisman race. So it goes to show you that sometimes what happens in September when you face subpar competition can be a bit of a mirage.
I was going to let you go, but you just said something interesting. Right in the thick of the Heisman Trophy race. And I'm not sure if there is a Heisman Trophy race at this time. I think the running back out of Boise State is just totally in the driver's seat at this point with Travis Hunter getting hurt, Boise State. There's a path to them for the college football playoffs. This kid had 217 yards. Jonte, again,
Ashton
this weekend. He's now close to 1,300 yards, I think, for the season. It is his Heisman to lose at this point. Would you not agree?
Well, no, there's a quarterback at Miami by the name of Cam Ward. Let's not count him out. We're only halfway through. Now, yeah, hey, Whitlock, don't give me that.
That was a joke, I hope, wasn't it? That was a joke. Unless the officials that you guys have paid off are the Heisman voters, I don't see that happening. But go ahead.
Call me Steve Rakim. That ain't no joke. Okay, we're only halfway through the season. Now, I love Genty. This is his path to the Heisman, and he's right in the thick of it. If he can get 2,700 yards of rushing, which would then surpass Barry Sanders in 1988, and given the fact that he tore up Oregon in a game that Boise State could have won if it wasn't for their special teams, and they make a playoff berth, it's his trophy. But again, Jason, we're only halfway through the season. It's a 12-game regular season. Most teams are only 6 games in. Let's not engrave that name on the trophy yet.
Well, Steve, you just set the bar so high. If he rushes for another 1,400 yards this year, we'll give him the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
I'm not sure if he has to rush for more than 2,200 yards at this point. He has a 2,000. Go ahead.
You know what's going to hurt him? He's not in a P4. The standards are different. He played Hawaii this past weekend. He didn't play Georgia. He didn't play Ohio State because of the schedule. And again, he's a great player. I think he should be a top 15 pick. But that matters. And the reality is, how many people east of the Mississippi do you think are staying up late to watch blue turf games in Boise? How many?
Look, I don't think you have to stay. I don't think you have to stay up late. One of their defensive coordinators is a friend of mine, Steve. Cut it out.
And you still
I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to stay up late. All you have. We're in a fantasy football league. We're in a fantasy football world. Stats drive a lot of the conversation. This guy's averaging, I think, 9.9 yards per carry. If he averages over 8.5 yards per carry this season, rushes for 2,200 yards, and Travis Hunter's gotten hurt, they'll probably lose, because I think nobody's won the Heisman that's lost more than 3 games. I think that's the cutoff number. And
Ricky Williams in
Colorado's
98.
probably
Right.
How many did they lose? 3?
I think they
4?
lost 3. I think they lost 3 games.
Yeah.
3 or 4 that year. Mac Brown's first year, I believe, in Texas.
Yeah. So I'm looking, I want to count and see how many.
Jason, can I give you an example of where there's an anti-smaller school bias? Let's go back to 1992. Gino Torretta won the Heisman Trophy for the University of Miami largely because they were a high-profile team and they were number 1 for most of that season, right? But there was a guy out of San Diego State by the name of Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk, I thought, was the best player in college football. I'll admit it as a diehard Hurricane fan. As much as I love Torretta, Marshall Faulk should have won it. But he got injured late in a late-season game against Fresno State. Couldn't play against Miami because I was at that game. I remember it was at Jack Murphy Stadium. And guess who won the Heisman? Torretta. So these things do matter, being in a major blue blood P4 type of program as opposed to being at a G5. It does matter whether it's fair or not.
So, all right, give me your top 5 then, or give me 3 or 4 other guys from the major powers that can knock this kid out.
Genty's in there. Genty's in there.
Yep.
Obviously, Cam Ward. I'm not leaving Cam Ward out. Don't give me that look, Whitlock. That was very insulting what you did a couple minutes. That pissed me off. Yeah. Oh, Ward, look at that. He looks so good.
Put up stats. You're complaining about Genty putting up stats against a soft opponent. Cam Ward played against Ball State this year. Next.
All right.
Go ahead.
Then I still think Travis Hunter, he only missed half a game. Let's see what his status is. He's still in the running. Curtis York out of Indiana running the Cignetti offense. I kind of like what they're doing, believe it or not. Jalen Milroe, I don't think he had his best game, but hey, he still puts up a lot of numbers. And you know what? Even though he missed a few weeks, he's got some time to make up ground. The mighty Quinn Ewers. I think Texas is the best team in the country. I'm going to state it right now. They're going to march in between the hedges. They will beat Georgia, and Quinn Ewers will reestablish a little bit of momentum. Also, Ohio State, again, I don't know if Jeremiah Smith as a freshman wide receiver can win it. He'll continue to get buzz. So those are the names right off the top of my head. I probably missed a few guys. But again, we're halfway through the season, Jason.
I'm going to set the number he needs to reach is 2,400 yards. Marcus Allen had 2,342 in 1981 at USC. If he gets above that, I think in this year, in this season, because I don't think there's super strong candidates. Now, if somehow Travis Hunter is back and they win the Big 12, they don't. Hadley just pointed out Paul Hornung won the Heisman Trophy on the losing.
Notre Dame.
But isn't that the year? Is that the year they screwed Jim Brown? Am I thinking of this correctly?
I believe so.
I think they screwed Jim Brown in one of the great tragedies in the history of college football. They screwed Jim Brown out of that. Anyway,
I mean,
Steve,
Jason, the only time I can remember a smaller school player beating out someone from an iconic school, Rocket Ismail, I believe in 1990, was as good and as dangerous and as lethal as any multi-purpose player I have ever seen. Okay? The Rocket was unbelievable. Everyone had their version of the Rocket, but he was the best one at it. Ty Detmer won the Heisman at BYU because they rolled up a lot of stats. They upset Miami in the opening game, and he came out of the whack. But maybe because his stats were so big, because they threw the ball a lot, maybe it'll happen. But again, with Genty, if he surpasses Barry Sanders, I think it's a sure thing he should get the Heisman then. I'll put it out there.
Well, if he surpasses Barry Sanders, they should build a statue out in front of every stadium in college football. All I'm saying, anyway, I'm done with you, Steve.
I'm done with you.
You got any thoughts on the Heisman Trophy, brother?
More disrespect. Jeez.
No, I think your boy Travis Hunter still got a shot. That's all.
Well, that's somewhat obvious, but who knows? Anyway, thank you, Steve. We'll hear what the chat has to say. Shamika Michelle and what you guys have been saying all show. Next. Welcome to Extra Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Oh my God, Lyndon Johnson, his thoughts are so disgusting. I can't believe you would engage with him. The celebration for being a slut have never been greater. Why do you choose Taylor Swift, and why do you pick up a role as, let me help my woman undress on stage in front of an audience?
When I look at people like Sexy Red or Cardi B that we prop up, now I see that the white community as well is just as fried.
It does look to me like he made some eye contact with her and then just decided, nah, let me move on. The BET Awards seems like a psyop at this point. It's just Democratic brainwashing. Get in there and fight for all the things. Steve, that's it for you. I'm done. All right, welcome back. Time to find out what you guys were saying during the show. Shamika Michelle, what was popping in the chat today?
Hey, Jason, I love coming after Steve Kim because it just makes me feel more comfortable with not letting you talk. So there was Joseph Santiago, the same psychologist in the chat today. He wants you to know not only do you have OCD, obsessive Caitlin disorder, but you also have PTSD, prime time stress disorder. And I'll let you answer that if you want. It's your show in a minute. But first, I need to find out who is this Akuna Matata in the chat, because he keeps 1-2 punching my family. Like, let them give your girl a compliment. He's calling them simps, telling them to stop being thirsty. Let me get my Remy my own, because Shorty trying to push up on me like a Wonder Bra. I'm conceited. I got a reason. Can you just let them be nice? Like, who are you working for, Akuna Matata? Like, who's telling you to stop them and shut them down? Are you my future husband in disguise? Because a compliment ain't never hurt nobody, is all I'm saying. So I do have a few things for you, Jason. You and Butter today. Is Butter actually there today?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Butter's here, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Always.
Just making sure he didn't sneak out this time. Now I don't have to talk to a chair. So, Jason, you know when you bring up Deion, people get in their feelings, right?
Yeah.
So you have some people that had something to say. D says, and I have about 4 of these, Jason. D says, I cannot understand for the life of me why you're hating on this man, specifically on a consistent basis, and nobody else falls under your tyranny.
Deion is a major icon and idol, plays the game that I'm most passionate about, or coaches the game I'm most passionate about, football. He's a big talking point. If I were on this show every Monday celebrating Deion Sanders, you wouldn't have a problem. I'm on this show telling you what's going on with Deion and what life lessons you can take from Deion. I'm using Deion and what's going on in Colorado to communicate a broader point and a bigger point to you about the necessariness and the benefits of actual humility. Secure men, men that are trying to follow Christ as Deion says he is. They would be more humble than Deion is. And so I'm just talking about it, something you're interested in. I'm trying to help you, trying to help myself, to remind myself about the importance of humility. I'm sorry if, maybe is Deion your family? Is Deion paying your bills? I don't understand why Deion is that important to you. It's not like he's Michael Jackson. I would understand. If I were on here criticizing Michael Jackson and you were upset, I would get it. Michael Jackson's that important. Deion's not that important.
Tyrese Tucker says, what is wrong with the dad trying to make sure his son succeeds? This is where you lose me, Jason.
But I'm gonna have you chime in on that, and because again, I'm not a father, but trying to have your son succeed in terms of paving the road for your son's success, I think you can go too far with that. Instill your kids with the right values, and let them make it on their own instead of force-feeding Shiloh Sanders on your football team when he's hurting your football team. There's other kids, there's other young men on that team that you have to worry about as well. Bending the entire offense so that your son can put up stats and be a top draft pick over doing what's best for your football team and all the other kids on that team, I think that's when you go too far, and that's when I criticize Deion.
Well, we've been over this same thing with LeBron and Bronny.
Yeah.
When you have a draft party for the 55th pick in the second round that's been set up because it's happening, it loses its authenticity a little bit. I struggle with this because these guys are here. You've had a lot of conversations about fathers and being there for their kids, but these guys are here. Are they too much? Is it too much about them? Maybe for some people, I think Deion's actually working the system. I think Deion knows what he's doing. I don't think this is as much in his situation compared to LeBron. I think Deion knows what's at stake here. None of those guys are going to be in Colorado next year. I think he's making the most and setting the table for what's going to happen in the NFL. It's great to see a father care that much. It's a little difficult sometimes to swallow some of the excessiveness that's there.
Next.
2 more show questions, Jason, and then one about your house. Since we have Butter on here, Butter, I need to tell you, one of your fans made me completely uncomfortable in the chat today. Scott J said, can Butters, with an S, and we already talked about that, show us the gun show? Uncomfortable.
You know, I've been asked a lot about that, Shamika, ever since I wore the Pat McAfee cutoffs. You know what I'm saying? And so it's something I've been getting a lot. I walk the streets here in Nashville. I go down Broadway, and they're like, Butter, you're the guy in the gun show.
It ain't
Jason,
that cloudy.
Hey, look, I'll just let you guys know there's a pregnant python here on camera set today. Right there it is. There's all my fans out there, the pregnant python.
Not that cloudy here, and so if you were showing those guns off here in Nashville, they would be getting some sun. So I'm not sure if I'm buying that.
You know, this reminds me of the part in Harlem Nights where you had the guy where he brought out the machine gun and he was like, brrr, and then you had the one that was like, pow, pow, and he said, put that little shit away. Butter, I'm sorry, but that's kind of what your guns remind me of. Don't shoot that again. Pew, pew.
Next.
Okay. Christopher Powell wants to know, Butter, what's your height? And Jason, would you go to McDonald's if invited by Trump?
Wow.
Would I go to McDonald's? No, I would not. If invited by Trump, no, I would not go to McDonald's. He'd have to meet me at Hall's or Kane Prime. I would not go to McDonald's.
I'm 5'7",
All right.
159. I run a 4.140.
Yeah.
Still got mad hops.
All of that's exaggerated, but we will comment no further. So I must have pronounced everything proper there. Yep.
Cup of the Original says to ask you, Jason, if you'd like a custom-made, Fearless branded housewarming gift in November. He designs and makes custom home, kitchen, wood products.
Huh. Is there a price tag attached to that? Or did he call that a gift? You know what? I would like something Fearless appropriate. I'll put Tiffany on that. Tell that guy, follow up with an email to fearlessblazeshow@gmail.com, and we'll reach out and yeah, I think I would. I'm gonna take advantage.
That's nice.
That's nice. I appreciate that.
For you, buddy.
Nice housewarming gift. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shamika. Great job. Anything happened today that you want to comment on, Shamika? Did we miss anything? Anything catch your attention?
You know, the only thing that caught my attention is Angel Reese and her lingerie pics. Maybe we can talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, she keeps sexualizing herself, and there's she keeps going to the beach indoors. At indoor events, she thinks she's going to the beach. Why not just go to the beach? Thank you, Shamika. We'll end on this note. Hey, my buddies, Judd Saul was in studio with us. We didn't show you, but he's got an organization called equippingthepersecuted.org. They do work in Nigeria, where there are 5 million displaced Christians in Nigeria, and they're being oppressed, they're being violated, they're being taken advantage of. I suggest and would love for all of you all to go to equippingthepersecuted.org, EQUIPPING, thepersecuted.org. If you'd like to help, it's a fascinating, interesting story about what's going on with Christians in African countries, the work they're doing to support Christians and save Christians is very important. Judd, I want to thank you for stopping by the studio. I hope you enjoyed the show. And I hope you all go to equippingthepersecuted.org. We'll see you tomorrow.